Okay, for people joining the live stream, this is a meeting about incremental language development for Wolfram Language. We have a variety of topics here, starting with date interval. Okay, should I be looking at the documentation pages here?
Yes, please. The functionality is in the xkernel.
Okay. I better start an xkernel then. Okay, we've very much discussed this, right?
Yes, yes. There were some final things like how do we decide the default granularity and things like that, but I think we managed to get this correct now.
Okay. Eternity, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need that for the past infinity and future infinity. But we call them infinite future and infinite past.
I think that's better than the general relativity terms. I mean, for our purposes, do you agree? Past infinity is very much a point in space-time, but most people don't think in space-time.
Yes, indeed.
What's this millennium beginning? Is that a new thing?
No, we always had that to resolve the ambiguity between starting in 2000 or 2001.
Okay. And that's the same way we documented it?
I think so. I guess he just copied the table from the other page. The page of date object, I mean.
Okay. So date object also has properties, right?
Yes, it does. And then we have a function called date value, which even more powerful.
And what does date value do on date interval?
Good question. I guess the properties that are shared will work as well.
Okay, so if I say date interval and now to tomorrow,
right. So you see that in this case, we always take the finest granularity, which in this case is instant. And so that's how it's resolved.
Okay. Is there any possibility we could align these colons here?
I guess we can.
Or is that inconsistent with our other?
We typically don't align the various fields, but in this case, because it's so symmetric, perhaps it's worth trying.
I think it's worth trying it. And I think we should be changing these calendary things anyway.
Yeah, I think we could totally remove the calendar.
I don't even know whether we need a date interval wrapper outside this, whether we can just have a, well.
Like date object itself?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of nice, but I mean, we can certainly do one iteration like this.
We have both precedents. I mean, it's like, you know, yeah.
I mean, if this gets more widely used, we'll want to. Okay, so then now if I say duration of this.
Duration. Oh, yeah, the function. Yes, we have the property duration.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good point.
Okay. Now date bounds, is that also a function?
Yes, and we have now min date, max date as well.
And why is that not just min and max?
because they also support, I don't know, date strings and things like that.
Do we care about date strings? I'd be happy to only support date objects.
We can live without them. I think in some previous meeting we decided that it was a good idea to have them, but
Well, maybe they have some extra feature.
the granularity, for example.
I think that's the issue, is the granularity, isn't it?
It's helpful, certainly, because it avoids wrapping the result on another data object.
Okay.
In fact, I think we decided that date bounds should also gain the granularity argument.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But duration is just, well, it has a granularity there. Oh, it's still futurized.
Yeah, I think he just added it.
Okay. Okay. What other functions like duration? Okay. What about plotting support for this stuff?
At the moment, it's supported by timeline plot. And yeah, we will work on adding it in some other places. Gosha is also working on supporting it in time series. Also the past infinite future and infinite past. She has done that already. And yeah, we need to propagate this object through other places. Functions like weather data.
Yes.
Etc.
Well, and dated presumably needs this. Dated needs this, needs the possibility of a date interval as a second argument, right? Because dated.
This will also be important for historical stuff, reporting periods.
Yes, yes, that's true.
There we have an issue, which is that many of those historical periods have a much larger granularity at the beginning than at the end. And this date interval object forces the same granularity on both. So,
sigh. Yeah.
That's, yeah. I'm thinking about perhaps allowing for date interval the second argument to be a pair, so that you can specify the granularity of the beginning or of the end.
Well, what is the realistic thing? The you know, the Bronze Age started at this time, but ended, or the dinosaurs started at a vague time, but ended the particular day of the KT, of the asteroid impact. I don't know. Is that the type of thing you have in mind?
Yes, or a country. We don't know exactly where the country started, but it ended in a very precise date with a battle or something. So it happens sometimes in historical country data. But somehow I have the impression that this is not so much about granularity, but about imprecision. It's more like the date is fuzzy more than granularity.
I agree. I mean, look, it's an around for dates.
Exactly. Yeah. So perhaps the solution is not really allowing more flexible granularity specifications, but allowing around.
Yeah, I think what the right thing is. Look, the country. It is a little weird, isn't it? Because a country might end a particular day. It will be unlikely to say it ended a particular hour, but there would be a day when some surrender was signed or something, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then, I mean, I think this is a rare case, but then the granularity will be a day-like granularity. But it's pretty weird to say, Rome was built in a day. Well, I don't. I mean, it's known by the year, right? When, what is it, 410 AD or whatever, whenever it was, the barbarians or whoever they were attacking Rome, right? That's sort of known to the year, but Well, it had a founding date, right? It had an official founding date. Rome did, because they quoted dates from the founding date. But I'm sure the actual, Romulus and Remus, uh, you know, that's a fuzzy date. I don't know. This seems like a corner case to me, and it seems like probably we should handle it using an around inside. Although, gosh, I've no idea how much difficulty there is in supporting around inside date intervals.
Well,
Um,
I'm planning to support around outside dates in the sense of a round of a date plus minus a quantity. That's very reasonable. But this somehow requires the around inside because we have to put it in the initial date. So that's the thing that is a bit strange. But I fully agree with you that the proper way to solve this is via around, not via granularities.
yeah. Well, kind of. I mean, there are things. Look, the formation of a country, you might know to within a year or a decade. You're unlikely to know it to the day, except in very weird cases. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. History is complicated.
Mhm.
All right. So, but okay. Dated clearly needs this. There's a bunch of financial data that will need this. Basically, we should look at what functions can take a date.
Yeah, or a pair. There are many functions taking a pair to return a time series, for example.
Okay. Okay. Now, supporting this in a time series, like a date interval, like something like date interval has value 7 or something. This date interval has value 7, that date interval has value 8. How is that going to work in time series?
Yes, so the plan is that by providing a list of date intervals, it will automatically switch to interpolation with order 0, assuming
I
that,
see.
yeah, it's constant values throughout those intervals and then jumps
Okay.
between them. And something we have done in date interval is always assuming that the first instant is included, but not the last instant. So that if we have a collection of date intervals which are back to back, then there's no overlapping.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
What should it return?
A quantity, an infinite quantity. That should work.
Is there an infinite? Do infinite quantities work?
Yes. Now we might discuss what the unit should be, and any would work. I would add, I would use years. Yeah, this works and we can manipulate it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't like the spacing here. That is a consistent bug which somebody really needs to look at. Could that get Devin? Could you?
Yeah, I can screenshot.
Yeah, the font of the text looks a bit.
Okay, I think the infinite future in GMT -5 is pretty crazy, and that should be fixed.
Yes, in fact, the infinite feature by itself has none as time zone, but while doing this computation, it gets converted.
Fine, but I mean, in the formatting, it shouldn't say GMT -5.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's like, at the very moment of the Big Bang, it was, we were, never mind.
Yes, but what I mean is that if you evaluate infinite future, it doesn't say GM.
Okay.
I think this is a problem of the computation through the difference.
Okay. So now if I do this, what does it think that is?
Yes, we have discussed these, and interval by itself sorts. So these are priming the difference. I will fix that. So we discussed this at some point. The fact that interval sorts its values, but we wondered whether there would be situations in which we want to run backwards. And so I think this is left just for that case, in case it's needed.
Why? We're inside whatever the outer event horizon of a Kerr black hole, and time is running backwards or something.
No. It's not so much running backwards. It's more like range. The fact that in range we can get a list that goes backwards.
I understand.
So because we want date interval to be able to go to date range, yeah, we might need not reordering.
Right. Actually, Carl on the live stream points out a very, very common case where you know the death date of somebody with certainty, but not the birth date. That's a good example. That's a good, clean example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Project Aphids points out, what about two fuzzy dates that both occur somewhere in 1995, but you don't know the order of the dates? In other words, two dates whose granularity, that is a can of worms, right? So what happens if you have two dates that are both, let's say, that have granularity of a month, but they're only 15 days apart?
Well, we don't support such thing because once we insert the granularity of month, that means the full month. It's not a day within a month.
I see.
It's the month itself.
Right, but this is the same thing as around, 3 plus or minus 0.2, or
Exactly.
plus or minus 2. Is that greater than a round of 4?
We don't handle that yet.
We just don't do anything. What could we possibly do with that?
Exactly. This is the sort of thing that would require a more powerful function saying, can you resolve this with this confidence? I mean, we would have to provide more information, some sort of notion of how much overlapping do you accept.
I don't think there's any. I mean, if I said, however, this 0.1, I see you still don't resolve that.
Exactly. These are Gaussians. They are always overlapping. It's not like intervals. Intervals resolve if they are fully separated. If they touch even at the border, they don't resolve. But of course, our rounds are Gaussian, so.
Well, I don't know whether they're Gaussian. They're uncertain.
They're uncertain, yeah. But the model we have in mind is that of a Gaussian.
I suspect we'll need an outer resolution function here that, as you say, makes certain assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's going to be annoying that can't resolve. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't run into that yet. Okay, fine. Let me just look at a few other comments here. Carl is complaining that there isn't a way to turn polygon of geoposition into a region.
Oh, there will be now in 12.1. So polygon of geoposition and polygon of geogrid position are understood. Well, if this is the X kernel, it should probably work now.
What would it be? Polygon of?
So, I mean, try, for example, to get the polygon of the US. Do entity US polygon. No. So, I see. Yeah, remove the polygon.
This.
What is this shape?
Okay.
Oh, this is returning the graphics already. Can you replace shape by polygon? Right, so this is going to return the polygon of the geoposition as usual. And now regions function. So now this is region Q.
So if I say, so what can I do? I could say something like
region centroid or something like that.
What projection is that? What is that?
Yes. So the interpretation is the following: if you use directly the geoposition, the polygon of geoposition, that's going to interpret as the 3D object, and Yes, and that's why it's returning something with a depth. However, if you project it, if you do, for example, GeoGrid position of that polygon comma Mercator, then it projects to the map,
I
and then
see.
we can do flat map operations.
So this is the center of the US, although is that the center of the density within the US? Yeah, that's region centroid of that region.
Exactly. Yeah. So what this is doing, it's producing the 3D mesh and then doing the computation.
Are we not in Kansas anymore, or are we still in Kansas here? We're in Kansas.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Smith Center. I wonder whether it knows it's the geographic center. Who knows? Sorry, let me not distract here. Okay, good. Okay, all right, I understand.
Yeah. So the important idea now is the difference between working on the map with GeoGrid polygon of GeoGrid position or working with the full 3D object, the real object.
So you can choose those two, you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah, if you can project, for example, try to do GeoGrid position of that polygon, comma Mercator or comma Albert.
This thing here?
Yeah. That will project into the map. Comma, yeah, sample. So now we have that object, which knows the projection. Exactly. And now you can do that. And now, of course, this computation is projection dependent. And that's why you get back a GeoGrid position.
So if I now say geo nearest city of that, I'll get different cities. Correct. Cool.
It's a little difference. And for each projection, you will get now.
Oh, we're in Nebraska now. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is nice because it realizes the importance of the projection, and we can compare things for different projections and see the importance of distortion.
That's very good. Very nice. Okay, question here. Is there a mechanism for converting an existing range of dates and times, e.g. a time series, into a date interval? So in other words, if you say date interval of a time series, that probably should give you the duration date interval.
I see. I don't think we support that. We can do it via date bounds. We can do date bounds of the time series and then date interval of those date.
But why don't you just have date interval wrapping a time series, just give those date bounds? It seems like a good idea.
I think we can do that, yeah, certainly.
Okay. Carl was asking whether you can do region. I think you can, region of %17 to display that region, right? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. And because it's the geo position, it's a 3D object.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I have never seen the US actually disembodied on a. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to try one thing. I'm sorry. This is not in the. Oh my gosh. Okay, no more playing. But anyway, let's just do this. Why is it taking so long? Wow, that's cool. Well, I think it's cool at least. I'm going to save this notebook.
It's very nice. This is very powerful.
You could probably do a whole empty globe.
We can. Yes. I've tried that, but our polygon for the whole world is so large that it takes quite some time.
By the way, where should I store this? Devin, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, you have a folder called geo functions and another one called date functions if you're concerned about either topic.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see. Date intervals should work well with timeline plot. Yes. What about date intervals counting things like business weeks? Does that work? So given a date interval, if I want to know how many business weeks are within that date interval, can I do that?
Yes, so this is related to holiday calendar.
Yeah, but isn't there a way of getting a date range? Can't you just say date range, right?
Mhm.
And if I say that, oops.
I'm not sure.
In other words, resolve the date interval into discrete dates of a certain granularity within that date interval.
Yes, yes. We do want to do this. I think Nick prepared a property. But yes, it should be propagated to this date range.
I think so. And probably that means there's a one argument form of date range, which is a little odd, but I think probably a good idea. And the holiday calendar stuff, how is that? That is not ready yet, is that correct? I mean, we have a lot of data from Wolfram Alpha. We haven't got that in here, right?
There is a way. We do have holiday calendar option to handle these things. This is the sort of thing that Nix is much better than I am.
Okay.
But yes, we do have the information in the Wolfram language.
Okay.
Certainly. Yeah.
Okay. A few other comments here. Yeah, around greater than that. This Carl is saying that this reminds him of distribution. I'm not really sure it's a distribution. I don't know what it is. This is a weird kind of construct.
You mean the comparison or each around?
Well, the comparison is it's just a weird thing. It's not, its truth value is very weird.
Yes, I think this is the sort of thing that needs to be handled via confidence numbers. So is the overlapping greater or lower?
I see. What confidence interval?
Exactly.
I see. That's a good approach. Yeah, that is a good approach. Okay, various comments about the fact that you might know an animal is born before it died, but you don't know. In other words, you might know. Yeah, I mean that's semantic information that we're not dealing with here. Is quantity array of vector around going to work?
Interesting question. I have thought about what to do with arrays of arounds, which may force us to have another type of structured array. But yes, quantity array should be able to extract the information from a vector around, certainly, and produce a quantity array vector.
Yes. Okay, Carl is asking if we're ever going to have a polygon simplifier, region simplifier for 2D and 3D meshes. I mean, we certainly have done a ton of work on that for geo stuff.
I do have internally functionality to do this. I mean, it's used in geo manipulation, but I think Charles is planning to have this type of functionality soon for his regions functionality, and that will be exposed to the users, of course.
If it isn't, maybe we should put something in the function repository from what you already have.
We could.
I'm still impressed with this. Coach David is asking what we use date interval for. Is mostly for historical research? Absolutely not. It will be used by your average financial quant trying to figure out things about cash flows or who knows what else. Very much a current thing. Okay, anything else I need to look at here with data? This looks good. I mean, I don't see a...
Can you just open the one page, for example, for infinite future, and just to see the wording of the definition box? Because this is kind of deep.
Representing infinite future and time. With granularity eternity, I guess that's right. Yep, seems right to me. Looking good.
Okay.
Don't forget to put it on guide pages. Maybe I'll have to do that at some point. Okay. All right. Next.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Brian's asking, does data interval understand leap years within a range and return the correct number of years? I would hope so. Correct number of days. Yeah, I would certainly hope so. That's why date interval is pinned to specific dates.
Yes, because it goes through date difference, and the difference certainly knows.
Right.
Once we fix the problem.
There's a question about the fractal dimension of the US from polygons. Yes, the answer is yes, you can do that. But we will not do it in real time here.
So this is the next two topics are things we have discussed. And
okay.
So the idea I was proposing here is a way of getting from a geoposition array lists of geopositions of various depths.
Right.
And this problem is present in all the 4 geoposition objects and all the 4 geovector objects. So I was looking for a solution that can be applied to the 8 of them simultaneously. The previous time you didn't like these combinations inside lists, and you suggested lists outside things, but I was a bit worried.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so these are properties that will be list geoposition. Oh my gosh. Geoposition list?
Yes, so that's the geoposition containing a list of lists of points, or a list of geoposition containing lists of points.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is just a comment of, could we do this with Flatten itself? And unfortunately, we cannot, because Flatten refuses to act on heads that are not the top level head, which is a pity.
Well, we could change that. I mean, what's the argument structure of Flatten? After the, I mean, there's the second argument. It only took us like a decade to figure out how to do these later arguments. Okay, flatten cell expressions with head H. What's wrong with doing something with the third argument there?
Because I think that there is a disconnect between the last line and the third line. I don't remember the details right now, but I was trying to...
Well, okay, so these are essentially tensor contractions across different levels. Is that correct?
Yes. So this means take those lists of levels and convert them into a single new level.
Right, but the question is only whether the head of the single news level, if the H1 and H2 are the heads of 2 different levels that are being flattened out here, what does the new level have as its head?
So I think that the main idea should be that all the levels you are contracting, like the S11, S12, etc., all of those should have the same head, and then the new level has the same head. But it doesn't have to be the top level head, and it doesn't have to be the head of the S21, S22.
I agree. What's the problem with this?
That it currently doesn't work.
Okay, but is there a reason we don't make it work?
No. I think we could make it work.
Carl and our live stream is suggesting using allowed heads for flatten. Not a terrible idea.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, so if that worked, how would that affect our discussion about geoposition list?
Well, the idea would be that we could, by using flatten properly, we could move all these geoposition and list levels around and flatten them.
And how properly would that have to be? I mean, how bizarre is it going to get?
It will be careful choice of numbers in the second argument of flatten.
Which people might get used to. I mean, just like transpose, I've slowly gotten used to how to transpose complicated, deeply nested arrays.
Yep. I mean, that second argument of flatten is very powerful. I use it quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't see a problem in introducing these properties, although they're quite obscure. But I think we're going to have two obscure ways to do this then. One will be the generalization of flatten, and the other will be these very bizarre list geoposition list properties here. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Curry, our friend Curry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So two things. So in the X kernel again, I have the code of operator and curry, the new ones, and then I have been thinking quite a lot about.
Okay. Well,
names.
let's. Okay. The algebra implied by the new design.
I think probably yeah. So I was trying to find relations in the new scenario. Probably the previous section is the most important one, the changes under discussion. So what we want to do is the current carry would be renamed operator or something else. I mean, operator still
on the table.
Exactly. I told Roger and he immediately said no, because we will have in the future differential operators. And
Well, does Roger have a concrete suggestion for this?
no, he does not. He just doesn't like operator here.
Okay.
And yeah, so in our current idea, carry and operator are very, very similar. It's only that the one argument form are interpreted differently.
That's all right. I mean, first is similar to take, comma, one. I mean, who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm just saying how the new situation would be.
Okay.
And
okay. Well, I don't think we need to scale down curry, but basically, the primary form of curry would be as curried itself.
That's one of the questions farther down. So in those two things, carry of f and carry of brackets and f, which one converts to the other one? I think following our standard approach of operator forms, the second should be an input for the first one.
This should convert to this, you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, curry 3. Okay, well, that's currying at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the new idea is clean. And
okay, so hold on. So this is now operator.
Yep.
Why? This works because the default.
Yeah, the default of operator is carrying the second argument, as we were doing before with carry. I have added a list of our current operator forms further down, just to see the overwhelming presence of the second argument being carried.
Where did you put that?
Our current operator forms, that one.
I see. Okay, yep. Okay, so 62, take the second argument and make that the curryable thing.
Exactly, which was always our argument for favoring that default.
That's a little weird that the option works, but it's okay.
Yeah, we have cases in which we can put the options there, or the option in the first pair of brackets, I think. Yeah, so this is the question of what is an operator form? Is the head only, or is
No,
it?
it's the whole thing, I think, is an operator.
So I was
By the
thinking
way, you sound faint. You sound perfectly loud to me, Jose, but I don't know if there's some difference in the way you're set up. You sound fine to me. I'm just seeing a complaint that you're hard to hear.
Sounds good to me too.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Jose, did you now disappear because you're...
No. I was trying to adjust my microphone.
Okay, you're a little louder now. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I was thinking about operator head.
As an alternative name.
Yes, precisely because, yes, it's the symbol is the head of the operator. It's an operator form once it gets some arguments.
I see. We'll have two utterly obscure names, curry and operator head. We might as well just call it headdress and be done with it. Okay, let's explain again what it's doing. It says that blah, blah, blah of F. No, it's then blah, blah, blah of F that creates an operator form. This thing creates or represents, well, that combination is an operator form. Is that correct? Am I getting this right? I mean, is that the...
Yes. So if we had, for example, member queue, so we would say operator of member queue, comma X.
comma X there.
Bracket X. Yeah. So, and that's now something we can apply to a list.
Okay, but what happens when there's a comma? The comma there is just the structural information inside the operator.
Yes.
We really want a single word here. And you're right that this is not itself the operator form.
So we have always documented until now that member queue of X is the operator form.
I agree. So this thing here is not creating the operator form, it's creating the thing which creates it's creating the pre-operator form.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I was looking for this operator head.
I wish that English had a different, I don't know whether it's a gerund or some other, because the operator or operation or something as the root seems right, but if we could only end it some other way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was also trying to compare it to function. I think that's the next section in the notebook.
Okay.
The last one, sorry.
Somebody should write some book about functional programming in our language, because there's just it's a really rich calculus of stuff that if people learnt it well, they would be very, very productive. Okay, partial application.
This is a more complicated. I was looking at the Wikipedia page for partial application, and they have those operators.
Do we care?
Not so much. I was wondering about the relation between operator and function.
Okay. I see. Uncurry makes no sense. Okay.
Yes. So I was trying to find a parallelism between those two important sounding words, function and operator.
So an operator of a function here, I mean, if we say operator, function xy, and then we say f of x, y here. What does that do? That applied to A, B, does that.
Right. So one question is whether if you just add A, it could do something partially.
I don't think
at the
so.
moment,
Why would it do it?
It could insert the A inside.
Oh, I see. Inside that function, which is an explicit.
Exactly. It would return a function of one argument. And I mean, now, of course, the question is whether it should return an operator of that reduced function or the function itself.
Surely an operator, otherwise it's going to do a different thing, isn't it?
Well, if it was 3 arguments, we would want to insert one by one. And for that, we need operator. So I do agree, in general, it should return another operator.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so look, this is basically an argument swapper. I mean, this isn't really. I'm kind of beginning to think that operator. What is this thing doing really? It is taking the thing you've got and is allowing you to make it into a. I don't know enough about all these things like operads and so on. It isn't any of those, is it?
I don't think so, but I cannot tell for sure. It's some sort of delayed argument passing.
It's a bad sign that I've obviously looked up operads before. This is not completely irrelevant.
No, it's not. I will certainly have a look at this.
It is amazing how things get invented so many times. Okay. I think we still don't have a name here, but I think we have the semantics pretty well down.
Yes, this is same as carried.
Fine. We really need to bring this to closure by 12.1. We need to have something there.
Yep, I agree.
Let me think about this for a second. Look, what this is, I'm still trying to describe what this is. It is a thing that takes the function. Yeah, someone on that. Yeah, Brian on our live stream is suggesting operate over. I don't think that's quite right either. I mean, this is, because what this is doing, that whole construct is an operator form of F. This creates an operator form of F. or stands for, represents an operator form of F. I just feel like it needs another ending for operate. What the hell is operate? Oh, this horrifying thing.
Yes, what we wanted to call map at head.
Are we going to rename it?
We discussed that it could have been a clearer name, but
I think we should provide the new name and deprecate this one, particularly if we're going to reuse operate for something else.
But can we, after so many years?
We'll keep this one working. It'll just have a big yellow stripe that says it's deprecated.
Yes, I was referring to using it for something else.
No, we cannot use this actual name for something else.
Right, yeah. I agree there.
But I think we should deprecate this because I think it's a bad name, and I think nobody's used it, and it was a mistake in the original design. What are some other endings other than operating, operationalized? I mean, these are made-up words. I'm thinking, and this is a sign we should move on to the next item in the agenda. I'm beginning to think it should be called something like operatic. Let's move on to the next item in the agenda. Okay, let's talk about time remaining.
Yes, so this is something that we already have in internal context.
We do? It's part of the pause system, or time part of the time constraint.
Yes, and it seems to work pretty well. And for example, when you have nested, some of them nested, it's able to realize which one is going to end sooner. Which is quite interesting.
That is interesting. This looks good. I think we should just have it. Time remaining, does it have any arguments? Or is it just...
No, I don't think it has any arguments.
I like it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this can be useful for various things inside time constraints.
Oh, I'm happy to see that Ali on our live stream is saying that he used operate. And SWSH is saying wants a way to bypass multiple arguments, substituting them with default values, like in the horror of list convolve. Yeah, the whole question about default values is a different one from the one we're currently doing. Well, it's not really different. I think that's not a problem we're going to solve in this round. All right, let's keep going. Key position.
Yes, this is just a suggestion coming from Chris' work on dataset. The question is whether we need a function to find the position of a key in an association.
You mean the actual position, like the 1,
Yes.
2, 3, 4 position?
Exactly, the numeric position.
Or the index, effectively. Because
Yes.
position in an association will give the key, right?
Yes, if you ask for the value. So if you ask for where is a given value.
Okay, you're saying where is that key?
Exactly.
And how does this relate to other key star functions? Is that consistent with how they work?
Well, in general, I don't think we have any functionality that worries about the position. This is a bit against the spirit of association in the sense that it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, I understand.
And when I asked about the possible implementation for this, apparently there is no, the implementation does not allow a particularly efficient way of, it would be just extracting the keys and doing a linear search.
Okay,
So,
the name is kind of weird because key, what the heck is it? Because it isn't a position.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's going to be an integer.
I understand that. I understand that. Which would work here if I said, you know, we can index that by an integer, right?
Yes.
As a part extraction thing. But key position, would that work on a nested association as well?
I don't think so. I mean, associations in general are not addressable when they are nested, right? Even lookup. How do you do a lookup of associations that are nested?
I'm not sure.
So I mean that I don't think we need it.
This function, key position.
No, the possibility of finding positions in nested associations.
Okay, let's suggest the following to Chris. Why doesn't he put something in the function repository for this? I'm not buying the idea that this is I mean, I can see why he needs it, but I'm not sure that anybody else will need it.
Right.
I think he should put something in the function repository for it.
Okay.
By the way, Carl on live stream is commenting on having a progress reporting option for map. I fully agree. And we are trying to get a good general progress reporting framework in place. Incidentally, I have a nice utility function. I think it might be coming to the function repository soon, which is parallel map monitored, which I've been using every day here. Although unfortunately it has a slightly different version of the way it does monitoring from map, whatever map monitored, whatever it is, does. But yes, I fully agree with that approach. Okay, data structure visualization. I think we kind of ran out of time here, so this will be continued at a different time. All right, anything else for here, for right now?
No.
Okay, those interested in the live stream, in about a little bit more than an hour, we will be going on with our dataset design review. And thank you all very much. Lots of good comments. Much appreciated. All right, see you all soon.